Okay, so this one's interesting. I hope you all enjoy it. First of all, hello, it's Austin here, or Luna. Hope you guys are having a wonderful Tuesday. My day's going, honestly, not so good. I messed up my sleep schedule in one day, woke up at like 3:30 p.m., and then I found out my favorite pizza place that I was going to get pizza from today is closed for a private event. So I'm hungry and I'm angry. But it's not the end of the world. I'll get something else. I'll persevere, but just know I'm salty about it. But anyway, I hope you guys are doing well. I'm not doing too bad, actually. I'm really fine. But I have a good story time for you today, one that I've been holding on to for quite a while, and I hope you all enjoy it. If you do, leave a like on the video, and let's jump into it. So today's story time is about an enemy of mine, an arch enemy. I'm just kidding. I don't have many enemies, to be honest, but I kind of did back in middle school, and there's this one dude in specific. We'll just call him Mark. Today's story time is about my beef with Mark, and how Mark one day went a little bit too far. I hope you all enjoy it. Leave a like on the video if you do. Let's get into it. So today's story time all starts off as a regular day back in 8th grade. Yeah, this was literally my last year before high school. My last year before, I had to really lock in. I really had to, get with the program, start doing better in school because high school matters a lot and colleges look at that stuff. So I was definitely trying to, lock in. Now, as we all know, that didn't happen. But, that's besides the point. But yeah, I was just enjoying my last year of 8th grade. This was towards the end of the year when this takes place. I think I had about 4 months left of 8th grade. So I was just kind of enjoying, my last few months of middle school, hanging out with my friends at my middle school, kind of, hanging out with them before I had to go on to high school and say goodbye to some of them because some of my friends from my middle school would not be going to the same high school as me. So I was just trying to enjoy my time left there, Now, in middle school, I had this friend. We'll call him Nick. Okay, Nick was one of my best friends. He's been in many other story times. He just has different names. Every time I do a story about him, I change his name. But Nick is one of my best friends, has been one of my best friends since like 2nd grade. Great friend of mine, right? And as many of you know, I'm a bit of a nerd, okay? I grew up playing a lot of Xbox 360, a lot of video games. Still play a lot of video games. Always will. That's one of my favorite hobbies on earth. I'm sure many of you can relate to that if you're watching me talk over video games every day. But back in middle school specifically, and a little bit of high school, I used to catch shit for that all the time. Like friends of mine and people that weren't friends of mine would be like kind of mean about it. Like I used to get roasted for staying home the day after COD would come out to play it. And then I would get roasted for just playing games in general. Like sometimes people who just didn't really like video games that much would like give me shit about it and be like, they're such a waste of time. And it's like, dude, I'm happy when I play them. That's not a waste of time to me. Suck my dick. Stop being so mean. But yeah, my homie Nick was also a big video game nerd, and that's how we became friends, and that's how we've stayed friends all these years. We just play a lot of video games together, and it like keeps us, talking and connected and stuff. Well, yeah, me and Nick used to catch a lot of shit for that. We'd always get called nerds, and we'd always get, kind of like picked on a little bit for it. Now, I wouldn't say we were bullied because, there's people out there that genuinely really get bullied every day, and they, can't stand going to school every day because kids are so mean. And for those people, my heart goes out to them, and I hope that stops. And, if that's happening to you, definitely talk to someone about it. But, yeah, me and Nick would sometimes get a little bit messed with because of it, right? And there was this dude in our middle school named Mark, and he was always the one giving us the most shit. He was always the one talking the most shit, being the most annoying about it, just always running his mouth, always coming up to me and Nick, just being like, you guys are fucking nerds. Like, what'd you do, play Xbox for 8 hours yesterday? And at first, it started off kind of harmless and like fun. Like he'd come up and like crack a joke about how we were nerds and we spent too much time gaming. But then he would laugh about it and we kind of like make small talk and it was fine. Like at first, it kind of seemed like friendly, like friendly jokes. And then it became like him just being a dick. It went from him being like, oh, like, stop wasting your time playing video games, nerd. Then he laughed to being like, you guys are fucking losers. It was just like, all right, dude, like, whatever, stay mad. And it never really bothered me and Nick or any of my friends that he would give shit to, because there was other ones as well. It wasn't just me and Nick, but it was primarily us. But I've never really been bothered by people shit-talking me. I mean, I literally do YouTube for a living. I get like fucking hundreds of comments all the time shit-talking me. I've probably had well over 100,000 comments in total shit-talking me throughout my YouTube career. Probably more. I don't know. Like, I've definitely had my fair share of, mean comments. Do they make me feel good? No. But does it, like, ruin my entire day? No, not really. I think an important thing to realize, and this can go for any of you, if someone's making it their mission to try and put you down and make fun of you and be rude, odds are their own life is probably pretty miserable and they're just projecting. I try and remember that. I know it because sometimes when my life's in a bad place, I get pretty negative myself and I'm quick to hate on things. But anyway, I'm going on a tangent here. I'm getting off topic. So yeah, me and Nick never really let Mark's bullshit bother us, right? That was until one day in specific. So one day in 8th grade, like I said, 4 months left of the year, we're just doing our thing every day. You know, me and my friends, we're hanging out. And one day at lunchtime in 8th grade, I'm at my table with my regular friends. I had Nick. I had some other friends of mine there. We're all hanging out in a circle at our table, doing our thing, eating our food. And in typical, nerd fashion, we're talking about the new COD. Yeah, we were talking about the next Call of Duty. It hadn't even been announced yet. And we had quite a ways away for it. But we were talking about what it might be, if it was going to be futuristic or not. And, we're kind of debating about it, right? And none other than Mark walked by our table and heard us talking about it. And of course, in classic Mark fashion, he had to say some bullshit. He turned around, walked up to me, and was like, "You talking about Call of Duty?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Do you guys ever fucking talk about anything else?" Genuinely, every time I hear you guys talking about some shit, it's some video game related nerd bullshit. And I was like, "Yeah, we're pretty nerdy, man. That's what we do." And he was like, "Why don't you do something with your life that matters?" And I was like, "Okay, give me some suggestions." He was like, "I don't know, play a sport or something. Go outside, play some football or baseball or something." Now, I'm not proud of what I said next, and I would obviously do this differently if it happened today when I'm a lot more mature. But me being in 8th grade and kind of just being sick of Mark's shit, I kind of dropped down onto his level of hater. I kind of stooped to his level, and I became a little bit of a hater myself. And I was like, "Well, Mark, do you think you playing football for the school is going to do anything for your life?" Because Mark played football on our school's team. And he was like, "Yeah, more than you playing fucking video games, Will." And I was like, "Okay, explain." And he's like, "You can get scholarships through sports. You can go to college for it. You can get a full ride scholarship. I could go pro." And he's completely right. And I think there's nothing wrong with playing sports in high school. I think it's a great thing to do. If you love sports, play them. If I love sports, I'd be playing the shit out of sports. I'm just not that into them. I like baseball, but I can't play it. I'm not it. I think it's a great hobby to have, and it's good for you. I am so with that. And if you can get a scholarship doing it, dude, fuck yeah, that's awesome. But like I said, I was kind of sick of Mark hating on me, so I stooped to his hater level. And like I said, not proud of how I responded to him. But I said, "So you think you're going to get a scholarship?" He goes, "Yeah, I could, pretty easily." And I was like, "Yeah, no, you're not." He's like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude, you're ass. You're the worst on the team. Ain't happening." And I don't even know how good or not good he was at football. I genuinely had never seen him play in my life. I was just rage baiting him. And it fucking worked. He was like, "Shut the fuck up, Austin. What the fuck do you know?" And I was like, "I don't know, man. Apparently nothing. I'm just some nerd. So why are you getting so offended?" And he gets up in my face and he's like, "You might want to shut the fuck up." And I'm like, "All right, man, my bad. Didn't mean to upset you so much. I didn't know you get so mad." And he just threw me the finger, turned around, and walked away. And my one homie who sat with us every day at lunch, let's call him Blake, he starts dying laughing when Mark walks away. He's like, "Bro, that was amazing." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Bro, you giving him shit back like that, it was just funny." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know, man. I was just sick of it today. I'm not in the mood." And everyone at the table kind of thought it was just a funny interaction. And we didn't think much of it. We thought, typical interaction. He's just being rude. And for once, someone gave him some shit back. And that was it. Well, he ends up coming back to our table 10 minutes later with his friend. And this friend he brought over to our table, I'd seen him around, but I'd never talked to him before. And he comes up to our table with Mark, and he goes, "Which one of you said that Mark can't get a scholarship?" And Mark points me out. And I speak up. I'm like, "Yo, you brought your friend over here to defend you?" I was fucking joking, man. I don't even know how you play football. I've never even seen you play. I don't know shit about football. I was messing around to make you mad, and clearly it worked a little too well. And Mark's like, "It doesn't matter. Talking shit is talking shit." And I was like, "Bro, you could apply that same logic to anything you've ever said to me." And I shit you not, he goes, "It's funny when I do it." And I look around and I go, "Mark, do you see anyone laughing when you say anything? When you come over here and you're talking shit to me or Nick or Blake or whoever about whatever you think is funny, being rude to us, nobody's laughing." And he's like, "I find it pretty fucking funny." And I was like, "Oh, I know. You love the sound of your own voice, but no one else does." And once again, he got real mad. He got up in my face. He was like, "Shut the fuck up. I'll punch you. I'll fucking knock you the fuck out." And he was just threatening to fight me, and he was super mad. And honestly, I typically was never on this rage baiting type shit that I was on this day. I don't know what had gotten into me on this morning. I just was not in the mood to take shit from anybody. So when he was giving us shit, I just was giving it right back. Honestly, I'd argue that I was being ruder than he was on this day. And like I said, not very proud of it. I don't typically handle situations like this, so I kind of regret it a little bit, but I can't change it. Anyway, after he gets up in my face and he's threatening to punch me and knock me out or whatever, his homie kind of splits us up and he's like, enough. Anyway, you, and he points to me, his friend. And I was like, "What's up?" He goes, "Don't shit talk my boy like that. You don't know nothing about him. He's a fucking beast on the field. Don't shit talk him. He's better than you in anything." And I was like, "Sure thing, bro, whatever you say." And I was not in the mood to argue with his friend about how his friend was so good at whatever he does. He was doing tricks on it. I didn't give a fuck. And after this, Mark and his knight in shining armor went back to their lunch table, to which we all just kind of looked around at each other, me and my friends, and laughed. Because we couldn't believe that Mark got so mad that he brought his homie over to come to his defense. Of all people that need a white knight, I did not think Mark was one of them. Anyway, the rest of lunch was very normal. It was chill. It was fun. We just sat around our table, eating our food, talking about the same stuff we always talk about. Everything went back to normal. I thought that was the end of, Mark being salty, right? Well, little did I know, it was just getting started. So the bell rings, right? And lunch is over. And we all get up, we throw our trays out, we start heading towards the door, and, we're just walking out, right? And there was 2 exits for our lunchroom, and we were going towards the front one. And I look to my right as I'm walking out with my friends, and I see Mark and his group of people walking out kind of close to us. And I notice Mark has a red slushie in his hand. Now, you're not supposed to leave the cafeteria with food. During the breakfast hours, sometimes they let you do it, like take something to class if you were hungry. But usually when you're walking out during lunch, you're not supposed to leave with the food. So I thought that was odd. I was like, he's walking out with his slushie, kind of weird, right? And right after I turn back around to keep walking, I feel something very cold and very wet hit me in the back of the head and completely cover my hair in it. Can you guess what it was? It was Mark's slushie. Shocker. And I turn around, and Mark and his homies are all laughing at the fact that I just got slushied or whatever. And probably a good 50 to 60 kids are all laughing because a bunch of people were leaving the cafeteria. And obviously, I got very angry. I got very mad because I was embarrassed as shit. Everybody was laughing at me. So, once again, not proud of this, but I stooped to Mark's level. I turn to my left, and I can see in the garbage can that there's a tray of food that was barely eaten. There's a tray that someone just kind of picked at, didn't really eat all their food, and it had a bunch of stuff on it. There was corn, chicken, mashed potatoes and gravy sitting on this tray, right? And I grabbed it, and I fucking whipped it as fast as I could at Mark, and it hit him right in the chest and exploded. And a bunch of food went in his face, it went all over his chest, it went on his legs. I'd say that I got him back 100 times worse than what he did to me. Because, I had slushy in my hair and on the back of my head and stuff, but, this went all over his outfit, all over his chest, his face, it spread. And immediately, he looks at me and goes, "Are you fucking serious?" And I made a very, sarcastic, kind of shithead joke. I was like, "Hey, man, I kind of got a good arm. Maybe I should play sports. That hit you pretty accurately." And without second thought, Mark comes charging at me, running at me full force, throwing up his fists, and I knew what was about to go down. There was no stopping it at this point. I knew exactly what was happening, and at this point, I was ready for it. So I threw my hands up, and I was like, all right, guess I'm fighting someone today. And yeah, we started fighting. Once again, not proud of it, man. I hate fucking fighting. You guys know me. So, I don't know, just on this day, I was being a little bit of a shithead myself. So yeah, me and Mark start fighting, and a bunch of his friends jumped in, which I did not appreciate, because it became a 1v3, and I can't win a 1v3 against a bunch of Chads. So, they start winning, and then my friends jump in, and now it's like a 3v3, and then more of Mark's friends jump in, and then these 2 other dudes that I wasn't even friends with jumped in trying to break it up, but then they got hit, so they started fighting Mark's friends, and it became a full-blown, probably 8-person, 9-person fight in the cafeteria. And the security guards are trying to break it up. Teachers are running over. And there's so many kids involved. And it's so just crazy and hectic with the crowd that they're having a really hard time breaking it up. And at this point, towards the end of the fight, me and Mark are just kind of dialed in on each other. We're trying to fight each other. Everyone else is doing their thing. And Mark goes to tackle me, to which I jumped out of the way. Luckily, I had fast enough reflexes where I dodged it. And he ends up hitting the wall and hitting his head on the wall. And he didn't knock himself out or anything, but you can tell he hit his head hard enough to kind of mess him up a little bit. He seemed a little bit out of it afterwards and stopped trying to fight me. And he put his hand on his head, and I walked up to him and I was like, "Yo, are you good?" Because listen, bro, even though I fucking despised Mark and we had beef and we were literally trying to fight each other, I'm not trying to see the dude have brain damage, okay? So when he smacked his head on the concrete wall, I had enough concern for the dude to be like, "Yo, are you good?" But I guess he didn't like that very much. He didn't like that I was walking up to him, asking him if he was okay, because he proceeded to reach into his backpack, grab a pair of scissors, and then hold them in his hand like a fucking tack knife from MW2, and he starts coming at me. And I was like, oh, fuck no. So I turned around and I ran, because I'm not trying to get stabbed. And I ran through the crowd, and luckily, right when I did that, enough teachers and security was involved that the fight was able to be broken up. Also, when Mark pulled out the scissors and charged towards me, a lot of other people ran away because they were like, holy shit, he's has a weapon of some sort. I'm sure some of the people didn't see that they were scissors. Maybe they thought they were a real knife or something else. Maybe some people saw it was scissors and were just like, yo, I'm not trying to get stabbed by scissors either. Like, I'm out of here. So yeah, a lot of people dispersed with me, and I think that made it easier for the fight to be broken up as well. Like, less crowd, less people involved. Anyway, I ran out of the cafeteria, right? And I ran straight to my next class because I was like, yo, I'm out of here. Fuck that shit. And I went to my class and I sat down, and I was the first person in the room because everyone else was up at the cafeteria still watching this, bullshit unfold. And my teacher saw me run in and he was like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. He's like, Austin, you're never this excited for my class. You don't run in. What's going on? Is everything okay out there in the hallway? I was like, yeah, there was a little bit of a fight in the cafeteria. I was just trying to get out of there. And he's like, oh my gosh, like, are you okay? Like, is there staff up there? Like, did they break it up? I'm like, I don't know. There is staff up there. They're working on it. It's fine. He's like, okay, just sit down, take a breather. Do you need anything? You need any water? I'm like, no, I'm good. Thank you. And this teacher was pretty cool. He was a cool dude. Well, literally 30 seconds later, people start pouring into the class, right? And an announcement comes on saying we are entering a lockdown at my school and for everyone to get to their classrooms and stay in them. And I was like, oh shit, what happened? Why are we going into lockdown? Like, what? And I was really worried. I can't lie. My mind started to make up some pretty crazy scenarios of what could have happened. At first I thought, shit, maybe Mark, used his scissors at somebody and hurt someone. Maybe that's what happened. Or maybe they were just on lockdown because the crowd was too crazy and they had to get everyone out of there. Or maybe someone else got hurt. I don't know, right? I was like, holy shit, what could have happened since me running away and me getting to class to make the school lock down? And I was really, really curious and really, really concerned. So yeah, my school enters lockdown and everyone gets in my classroom and my teacher, locks the door. And my teacher proceeds to speak to the class. He's like, listen, guys, I know that, there was some drama, some stuff that just happened upstairs. Let's try our best to put it in the back of our minds and focus on class today. Let's try and wind down here. Everything will be okay. Let's just get some work done today, okay? And everyone kind of nods their head and agrees. And my teacher starts teaching the class. And about 5 minutes into class, I get a text message from Nick. And Nick says, yo, did you see we're in lockdown? And I was like, yeah, man, I heard the announcement. Yeah, I know. He's like, do you know why? And I was like, no, do you? He goes, bro, they can't find Mark. He ran off with the scissors. And I was like, what? I was like, what? How do you know? He's like, cuz I was helping look for him for a little bit, and they sent me to class and locked the school down. And I was like, holy shit. So Mark, after I ran off, I'm assuming he ran off as well. Maybe he was looking for me or just trying to get away from security or something because he didn't want to get in trouble. And the school somehow lost him, which definitely shocked me considering how many staff members were there for that fight and how many people were involved and just how much staff there really was. So I really thought someone would have an eye on Mark, especially given the fact he pulled out some scissors, but whatever, right? School went on lockdown. Nick told me why. I was like, holy shit. Now at this point, I was a little bit nervous. I can't lie. It's like, yo, what if Mark knocks on the classroom door and he's got the scissors in his hand or something? Or what if he hurts somebody else? I was definitely worried. So for the next 20 minutes, I was definitely nervous, definitely on edge, just waiting for another announcement and wondering what it was going to be, And finally, about 20, 25 minutes in, another announcement comes on, and it says that the lockdown was no longer in place and that people could, move about their business as usual, right? Now, immediately I feel some relief because I'm like, okay, good. They probably found Mark. They probably, are handling the situation. Everything's good. Everything's great, right? Well, a minute later, another announcement comes on and says Austin to the principal's office, Nick to the principal's office, and they announce 3 other names that were involved in the fight to go to the principal's office. And I was like, oh shit, there it is. I was expecting this. I knew at some point I was going to get called up and be talked to because I was literally involved in a fight. There was no way they were letting that slide. I knew that I was going to have to talk to somebody about it and get in trouble. Well, I go up there and my mom and everyone else's parents are already there. So I guess when we were in lockdown, someone called their parents to come down. I don't know. But somehow our parents are already all there. I was like, holy shit. And we have to sit down with the principal and all these students that were involved in the fight that got called up and talk to our parents, the principal, the police were there, the school cop, and someone else showed up, another cop. And it was just insane. We all had to give a step-by-step of what happened. We had to say our sides of the story and talk to the principal about it. And eventually I was like, yo, what happened to Mark? Where's he at? And my principal essentially tells me that it's not my business and that it's going to be handled and everything's okay. To which I argued back and I was like, hey, he chased me with scissors And I think it is my business because of that. And my principal's like, don't worry, Austin. I've already talked to your mom about it. Like, it's being handled. He will not go without consequences. And I was like, all right. She's like, right now we're here to talk about your consequences and everyone else involved in this fight. As you know, fighting here is not permitted, obviously. So you're all in quite a lot of trouble. And she was not kidding because like 5 minutes later, we all got suspended. Some of us longer than others. I got suspended for a week. Most of my other friends got like 5 days. I'm not sure why I was longer than them. Probably because I threw the tray of food at Mark. I don't know. I have no idea. Either way, I didn't question it. I didn't really just bother arguing. Anyway, like 30 minutes later, and after a very lengthy meeting with my principal and all these parents, they finally let everyone go. And everyone was able to go home with their parents and, leave for the day. So that's what I did. I gathered my things and I left with my mom. And I got in the car and I looked over at her and I was like, are you mad at me? She's like, yeah, Austin, you got in a fight. I'm not very happy about it. But are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm okay. And she goes, like, are you sure? Like, do you need to talk to anybody about what happened? Because, she was concerned. I got chased by some dude holding scissors like a fucking knife. So it's like, it's a little scary. But I was like, no, I'm okay. And I was fine for the most part. I mean, yeah, it shook me up a little bit. It's not fun getting chased with a pair of scissors thinking you're about to get stabbed. But for the most part, I was good, other than like some soreness in my face from getting hit. But I was fine. Even the fight itself didn't really bang me up too bad. I think I was relatively fine. So I asked my mom, I was like, what's going to happen to him? Like, the principal didn't tell me anything. And she's like, well, I don't know yet, but don't worry. I'm in communication with your principal and the police and stuff. The police are handling it. I was like, oh, the police are? And she's like, yeah, the cops are involved. Like, he literally tried to use a weapon. Like, trust me, they're involved. And after this, it was just kind of a waiting game. I was waiting to hear what happened to Mark. I was waiting to hear, like, what was going to happen to him and, like, if he got in a lot of trouble. And finally, like, a week later, I found out. Yeah, my mom told me that he got kicked out of school forever. So he was not allowed to go to our school anymore. And he couldn't go to the high school either. Our school had, like, a high school portion. He couldn't go there. He was banned from our school. He had to sign up for some, like, juvenile detention program. He didn't quite go to jail, but it was like some program for, juveniles that were definitely on the wrong path in life. And he had to do that for like a month. So that's, pretty wild. He also wasn't allowed to go to any school that I was going to or any of my other friends. So, yeah. Essentially, Mark had to get kicked out of my school, and whatever school he went to moving forward, the schools had to like make sure that we weren't in the same school. So pretty crazy. Honestly, I think, all things considered, I think Mark got off kind of easy. I can't lie. Like, if you pulled that shit as an adult, it'd probably go a lot different. You'd probably end up in jail. You can't chase people with scissors, wielding them as a weapon. Anyway, crazy thing about this, it doesn't end there. So, yeah, I found this out like a week later, right? And about 2 weeks after that week, it's the weekend, right? And I'm hanging out with Nick at my house, just chilling, right? We're having a sleepover. He was sleeping at my house. We're not doing a whole lot. And we start getting kind of hungry. And usually when we get hungry, we just walk to the mall. So that's what we did. We walked to the mall. And we got some Taco Bell. And we're just sitting in the food court, eating some Taco Bell, kicking it. And, usually when I'm eating my food, I like to just look around. I just let my eyes wander as I chew my food and just kind of look around and, look at the people walking by and look at the doors and like the windows and look at the birds flying around, in the mall because there's fucking birds in there for some reason. And that's what I'm doing. I'm just like looking around, right? And I look at the front door by the carousel and I see a guy and a woman walk in that look very familiar. And I was like, why do I know them? Who is that? And then I like see them get closer and it's fucking Mark and his girlfriend walking into the mall. And I look over at Nick and I was like, yo, look who just walked in. And he sees Mark and he goes, oh shit. And I was like, yo, what the fuck? No way this is happening right now. And Nick's like, do you want to like leave? You want to go somewhere else? And I was like, nah, man, let's just sit here. He probably won't even notice us. Like, let's just do our thing. And boy, was I wrong. Because like literally 30 seconds later when Mark jumped in the Taco Bell line, he saw us sitting there at the table nearby and he starts walking over. And Mark's girlfriend saw this and literally walked up to him and tried to grab his arm and be like, no. And he like kind of shooed her away and he was like, no, like let me go over there. And I can't lie, bro. There was a part of me that was a little bit nervous because it's like, what is he about to do? This could go like two ways. He's either coming over here to talk or he's coming over here to fight. And I didn't really want either, to be honest. I didn't want to see how either would pan out. Definitely a part of me was a little bit nervous. And Nick even looked over at me and he was like, yo, like, let's just leave. Let's just walk away. Like, I don't want to talk to him. And Nick gets up and starts leaving. And I don't know why, but I just sat there. I like wanted to hear what he had to say. And honestly, that's probably stupid of me. I probably should have just got up and followed Nick and just left. But I sat there and Mark approaches me and he like cracks like a half smile and he goes, hey man. And I was like, hey dude, how you been? He's like, I've had better weeks. And I was like, yeah, I bet. He's like, how are you? I'm like, I'm good. He's like, where'd Nick go? I'm like, I just don't think he wants to talk to you. So he walked away. And he goes, understandable. He's like, look, I don't know why you think I'm over here, but it's not for anything bad. I'm not going to try and like fight you or like chase you with scissors again. Sorry about that, by the way. And I was like, it's okay. Everyone's good. That's all that matters. He's like, nah, man, I'm just over here because it's like, I wanted to, talk to you because I haven't been able to since what happened. And I don't think I'd ever get a chance to talk to you again. And I saw the chance and I want to come over here and just let you know that, my bad about that. I lost my temper. And this was shocking to me. I didn't expect an apology out of the dude in any shape or form. So I was like, what the fuck? And I just was like, oh, yeah, man, all good. Like I said, all that matters is everyone's okay. You didn't stab me, so that's good. He's like, honestly, man, I don't think I would have. I think I was just really mad and wanted to show you how angry I was. I don't think I would have, actually done anything. But either way, doing that was not okay. So, like, I'm sorry. And also, I'm sorry for starting it. I shouldn't have thrown that slushie at you. And in my head, I'm like, yo, is this the same person? Like, what happened between then and now? Like, only a couple of weeks had went by. Like, it doesn't make any sense. I don't know how the fuck he was so different all of a sudden. He was so cool. And it's not like he had his mom with him or someone, like, making him do this. Like, he was just with his girlfriend. He could have easily played the tough guy role and, like, walked over him and a dick to me. But he was really nice. So, yeah, after I told him, like, it was all good and that I appreciated the apology, he was like, when you see Nick, let Nick know that I'm sorry as well. And everybody else involved, let them know that, like, my bad. And I was like, all right, man, I will. He's like, all right, dude, thank you for talking to me. I was like, of course. He's like, I'm not even sure if I'm allowed to be talking to you right now. So, like, maybe don't let anyone know I did this. I'm like, all right, man, I got you. He turned around and he walked away. And after this, I walked over to Nick and I was like, yo, so that was interesting. He's like, what happened? I'm like, bro, he just apologized. He's like, what? I'm like, I know. He's like, why? And I was like, I don't know. I guess he just felt bad about it, but he said sorry to me, you, and everyone involved. And Nick was like, wow, that's really awesome, actually. I was like, I know. And after this, me and Nick just walked around the mall a little bit doing some shopping, and we actually bumped into Mark again at a store, and he actually apologized to Nick directly. And while he was talking to Nick, I kind of like put myself in the conversation, and I said sorry to Mark as well, because I didn't get a chance to say it when I first saw him at the mall, because I was like, I felt bad too. I was definitely rage baiting the dude a lot that day. And I think that contributed. And I think, if I didn't do that, this whole thing probably would have never happened. So I told him, I was like, yo, man, like, my bad as well. If I kept my mouth shut, that whole thing probably would have never happened. And Mark's like, nah, man, like, you're good. I opened my mouth first talking shit on you guys and your video games and stuff. And, like, you were just defending yourself. And I was like, yeah, but, like, I was kind of being a little bit too far. And he's like, well, I appreciate it. And we, got to talk a little bit more about it. And it was just really cool, really wholesome, a great, conclusion to this whole fight, right? But the funny thing is, it doesn't even end there. So after this, right, after the mall, I went home and I talked to my mom about it. And she was like in disbelief that like I saw him there and that he was so cool about it. And obviously she was happy that he was cool because, there's that chance that he might not have been. But after this, I thought that was the end of it, right? Nah, man. Fast forward many years later. At this point, I'm 21 years old, bro. This is like 2 months after my 21st birthday. Many years have gone by, right? Like it had been a long fucking time. And I'm at a party in my hometown. One of my friend's birthdays was happening. And a lot of people were there. He rented this Airbnb. There's a shit ton of people there. Probably like at least 50 people, right? And I'm in the living room, just like chilling there, just having a drink with my friends, just hanging out. I get a tap on my shoulder. And I turn around, and Mark is standing behind me. And he is absolutely shit-faced, like so drunk. And he's like, Austin. And I was like, Mark? He's like, dude, how the fuck you been, man? Like, I heard you're doing really good. Like, that's so cool. And he gives me a hug. And I was like, what the fuck? And I'm like, bro, how have you been? And like, we're talking. And he starts cracking jokes about that day. He's like, bro, I was fucking giving you shit and telling you you'd never make it far playing video games. And now look at this, bro. You fucking play video games for a living and I don't do shit. And he starts laughing. I was like, bro, no, come on, don't say that. I know you're probably doing some cool shit too. Come on. And he's like, nah, man, like, I don't even play any football anymore. Like I said I would. Like, I'm full of shit. And I was like, dude, come on. Don't say that about yourself. Like, what do you do? And he ends up telling me he's working at some company. And the company he's working at, I know it. It's like a pretty big company locally here. And I have friends that work there as well. It's like an office job and like they make good ass money. And I told him that. I'm like, bro, I know that place. Like you're making good money. Don't be hard on yourself. He was like, I know, I'm just fucking around. And like, he was just so drunk. Anyway, I ended up fucking talking to him for a little bit there. He was really drunk, so I don't know if he remembers any of it at all. But like, it was a nice, pretty wholesome conversation after that. And he was just a different person, man. I don't know, like since that day and everything that happened, he was so cool. Obviously, I don't excuse what he did. I think, chasing someone with a pair of scissors as a weapon is not okay in any circumstances. But I'm glad that at least no one got hurt and that he changed. And that's pretty much it. And that leads me to the moral of this story, which is, try and avoid getting into fights if you can. Like, please avoid them because, you never know who might be like Mark and try and wield scissors as a weapon. Am I glad that it concluded the way it did? Yes. But could it have been avoided? I also think yes. If I didn't just rage bait him so hard, this probably would have never happened. I'm not saying I'm entirely to blame. I do think, Mark did open his mouth first and start shit talking first. But, I definitely stooped to his level, which is never, in my opinion, a good way to handle things. I think, stepping down to someone's level and being just as rude isn't going to solve anything. So, yeah. But yeah, guys, that's the end of the story time. Very crazy one, in my opinion. Definitely very insane. I hope you all enjoyed listening to it. If you did, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below. And subscribe if you're new. I'll see y'all later. Peace.
If you won't let me be, maybe outside, let me die in the backseat. Let me bleed out, or you're not entertained. Going outside like somebody asked me. Everybody thinking I got trouble for days.